How scary is it to defy your boss in the workplace? He simply wanted to try a little innovation, but ended up losing his livelihood.
So you're threatening to fire me now?
Am I threatening to fire you? No, I'm telling you what I'm prepared to do if you don't cook my menu. Subject closed.
However, the angry boss seemed to have forgotten that he wasn't firing an ordinary employee, but the true soul of this restaurant. Carl's signature dishes have kept diners coming back happily for 10 years, and because of his existence, the restaurant leaped to become a top-tier spot in Los Angeles. And today, a special guest will come to the store, the famous food critic Ramsay, with millions of fans. His few words can decide the life or death of a restaurant, and can also sway the future of a chef. To welcome Ramsay's arrival, Carl and his subordinates have been busy spinning around since early morning. Suddenly, the busy rhythm was disrupted.
For assault.
Rita's here.
Okay, you got it? Let's get... What the hell's Rita doing here?
Before the voice faded, the boss Riva arrived holding a coffee cup.
Are you planning on altering the menu?
And as a star chef, Carl had long been fed up with Riva's self-righteous interference. He casually replied with a sentence, then turned directly around to continue arranging work. And this disregard from Carl made Riva even more unhappy.
Can we have a little privacy, guys?
But clearly it was an order from the boss, yet the employees subconsciously looked at Carl. Under Riva's urging, everyone reluctantly left the kitchen. After declaring his sovereignty, Riva finally got to the main topic. It turned out he didn't want Carl to cook new dishes for the food critic Ramsay, but wanted him to make the signature dishes that hadn't changed in 10 years. Because using these classic dishes verified by reputation to greet Ramsay's tasting would make him feel more secure. Although Carl was full of resistance to making the old dishes in his heart, under the boss's soft and hard tactics, he had to choose to compromise. Then, he helplessly announced the dishes to be made today. When the team heard those familiar dish names, the light of expectation in their eyes instantly extinguished. But Carl could only be like a deflated ball, returning to the operation station with a body full of grievance. He increasingly felt like he was living like a marionette. Carl looked at the performance before him but tasted the bitterness of his own life. The puppet in the artist's hands is pulled by silk threads, every movement involuntary. Just as he should have unleashed endless creativity in the kitchen, his hands and feet were tied by reality. But Riva's arbitrary actions ultimately made Carl take the blame. That food critic who wrote a hymn for him 10 years ago now pierced him with sarcastic words. And the sharpest spearhead of the comment went straight to the final dessert, the chocolate molten cake.
This sad dessert is emblematic of Carl Casper's disappointing new chapter. His dramatic weight gain can only be explained by the fact that he must be eating all the food sent back to the kitchen. 2 stars.
He could only tell his full belly of grievances to Molly, and then invited her to his home late at night. However, their date seemed a bit unusual. Cutting garlic, frying, boiling noodles, plating, stirring, and ending with chopped coriander, flowing like clouds and water, done in one go. Sure enough, a man cooking seriously is the sexiest. Molly sat on the bed, admiring every movement of Carl, her eyes involuntarily filling with lingering affection. But Carl seemed to not understand romance. It turned out his invitation was not for romance, but just to retrieve his trampled dignity in the way he was best at, in front of someone who understood. Moreover, besides cooking, Carl was not confident in other aspects of himself. He had just ended a failed marriage not long ago. After leaving the property and son to his ex-wife Inez, he became a pauper. Obsessed with work, every time he went to school to pick up his son Percy, he would be late. The classmates on the playground had all left, leaving only Percy waiting for him lonely against the telephone pole. And his way of accompanying his son was always to let Percy go grocery shopping with him. This day, Carl went to Inez's house to pick up his son again. As soon as they met, he couldn't help but pour out his bitterness, spilling the food critic's bad review like beans from a bamboo tube. And Inez listened quietly to his complaints, her eyes interlaced with heartache and understanding. He gained comfort from Inez's care, and after his mood softened, he took his son to play to his heart's content. At parting, Percy couldn't bear to separate from him and proposed with full expectation to watch his dad cook, but Carl stiffly rejected him. In Carl's heart, the kitchen is a sacred creation forbidden zone, tolerating not even a bit of disturbance or distraction. Percy could only watch him walk away. He couldn't understand why his father would rather face the stove alone than let him share in that passion. Pan-fried pork belly, curry prawns, charcoal-grilled quail, paired with special sauces and exquisite plating. Carl wanted to use these innovative dishes to prove his ultimate pursuit of food. He was so full of passion that he busied himself for the whole night. And when the colleagues who came to work tasted these dishes, they were simply astounded. These sincere praises finally smoothed the scars left by the bad review. Immediately, Carl rushed home to make breakfast for his son. The bread smeared with butter sizzled on the iron plate. Then the cheese slices were grilled just right. After stacking them together, it became a sandwich full of love. With one bite, the bread crunched crisply, and the mozzarella cheese pulled out enticing long strands. After the meal, he saw his son playing intently on the iPad, and at this moment, a thought flashed through his mind like lightning. Why couldn't he also make his own voice heard? Immediately, he registered an account on Twitter. By nightfall, Carl got busy. He read the food critic's bad review word by word, and the more he read, the more he couldn't control his anger. He left a message in the comment section with fingers trembling from rage. After sending this sentence, he finally let out a breath of bad air. But this provocation was like a stone thrown into a lake, stirring up 1,000 waves overnight. The food critic showed no weakness and mocked Carl greatly in front of the vast number of fans. These mean words had long gone beyond the scope of food, becoming a public, personal attack on the chef. Carl's blood boiled at that moment, and he decisively issued a letter of challenge.
Why don't you come by again tonight? I got a whole new menu just for you, asshole.
Oh, no,
That's not good.
Give me the phone. Give me the phone.
Don't do it.
This internet storm quickly swept through the whole city. Inez anxiously wanted to help him quell the dispute, even suggesting funding him to run a food truck to avoid looking at Riva's face again. Inez always believed in his talent, but she didn't understand that what Carl needed most at this moment was not a rescue, but to prove himself with strength. He returned to the kitchen to busy himself again, turning all his anger into fuel for creation. This passion for battle also infected his colleagues. But at this critical moment, Riva once again poured a basin of cold water on his head.
Carl, we're staying with the same menu, right?
For Riva, stability always trumps innovation, and obedience is always higher than talent. Carl was eager to display the brand new menu but was ruthlessly interrupted by Riva. He took out that old menu used for 10 years and demanded Carl must return to the classics. Carl, bent on redeeming his dignity, argued strongly on just grounds.
Deal is now changed. Either you stay or you go. It's up to you. End of discussion.
Carl's behavior of not putting him in his eyes made Riva furious. What he wanted was never just food and business, but the absolute submission of employees to his authority.
So you're threatening to fire me now?
Am I threatening to fire you? No, I'm telling you what I'm prepared to do if you don't cook my menu. Subject closed.
Carl could not bear the humiliation. He silently put away the knives that had accompanied him for many years, and under the shocked and reluctant gazes of his colleagues, like a lonely hero, he left this battlefield where he had dedicated 10 years of youth. He thought what he lost was just a job, but what he retrieved was the long-lost dignity. Unfortunately, Riva's mistake made Carl pay the bill again. Just after Carl left, the restaurant welcomed the most important guest of the night. After Ramsey took his seat in the familiar position, he looked around but did not see that arrogant head chef. And the dishes he ate last time were actually brought to him again without a difference this time. Seeing the situation was bad, Riva quickly sent a bottle of 82 Lafitte, wanting to shut Ramsey's mouth. Of course, having accepted the gift, Ramsey didn't cause a public scene. He merely treated the dishes before him with disdain and immediately updated his status on social media. However, what Ramsey didn't know was that those dishes he didn't get to eat were freshly coming out of the oven at Carl's home at this moment. Carl replicated the menu of tonight's process. When these magnificent dishes were presented one by one, Ramsey's bad review also immediately entered Carl's line of sight.
This guy's tweeting me. This guy's calling me out online. What are you serving?
Molly just hung up the phone, and Carl had already stormed into the restaurant aggressively. He had to talk to Ramsey face to face, and even more so, to seek justice for those misunderstood dishes. He crushed the molten cake with one hand. Unexpectedly, his hysterical roaring was recorded by the restaurant's customers throughout the whole process and uploaded to the internet. This made Carl an internet celebrity overnight. He had to ask a PR company to help delete the video. But once a video is uploaded, it is difficult to delete. However, crises often contain turning points. The PR manager took the opportunity to give him advice.
Great, awesome.
But there just might be an opportunity here.
How can this possibly be an opportunity?
Well, I was holding off until we spoke, but I'm fairly certain we have a good shot at Hell's Kitchen.
She advised Carl to hype himself while the heat was high, and maybe he could catch this overwhelming wealth. This was originally an opportunity many people dreamed of, but for this stubborn cook, his life's pursuit was just to cook well. However, reality did not go as one wished. After the video spread, no one wanted to hire him anymore. No boss was willing to use a powder keg watched by the whole network to gamble on the reputation of the entire restaurant. At this moment, Carl realized that the price paid for the dignity he defended that night was far heavier than he imagined. Just when Carl was at his wit's end, Inez secretly arranged a trip for him. Unexpectedly, this actually opened the door to a new world for Carl. They first came to Little Havana in Miami. In the bar where Percy's grandfather served as the lead singer, Carl revisited the casual singing without technical carving. This spontaneous performance had nothing to do with a food critic's star ratings. It spoke only to the authentic rhythm of life. It used a boiling rhythm to accept all of Carl's disappointment and clutter. Every cell in Carl's body began to revive, shaking out a rhythm of joy with the fat all over his body. And seeing this, Inez also gladly joined. At this moment, the tacit understanding between the parents was like a warm glimmer, illuminating the wish hidden deep in Percy's heart for a long time. It turned out that the broken relationship between parents still had the possibility of being pieced together completely. Seeing his daughter and Carl appear together, Inez's father thought they had remarried. Fortunately, at this time, the waiter brought up authentic Cuban sandwiches, rescuing Carl from this awkward topic. With gourmet food in front of them, everyone began to gorge themselves.
Yours are way better.
Unexpectedly, Inez's casual praise instantly triggered Carl's inspiration.
You think people would like this kind of food back home? You think people would like it?
Yeah, it's real food. Why not?
They looked at each other and smiled. Carl decided to start a business from a food truck, and this was exactly the meaning of Inez asking him to come to Miami. She deeply believed that this place would be Carl's land of salvation and source of inspiration. Said and done, Carl no longer refused Inez's kindness and planned to get a food truck from her ex-husband Marvin. When he came to Marvin's company for the first time, he was asked by the receptionist to put on shoe covers. With this layer of plastic wrapping, he stumbled his way into the office. This slippery and strange touch under his feet made him feel that every step forward was like betraying the proud self of the past. What stung him even more was that intimate photos of Inez and Marvin could be seen everywhere in the office, and Marvin even deliberately added oil and vinegar to this relationship. Seeing Marvin's handsome appearance and exquisite office, and then thinking about his own bloated figure and humble begging, Carl had never felt failure so clearly. He forcibly endured Marvin's generosity that carried scrutiny, swearing to turn this charity into a starting point for turning over. However, when that food truck slowly approached, Carl was still stunned by the scene before him. This white iron guy was even more dilapidated than imagined. The mottled body covered with scratches of time. When he opened the car door to take a look, the operation table was covered with thick grease, and rust climbed over the equipment like vines. But an arrow once released has no turning back. He could only brace himself to work from scratch, doing everything personally from checking circuits to cleaning dirt. Just as he was burnt out with anxiety, Inez suddenly appeared with their son, but Carl stared at her with a serious face.
Did you sleep with him?
With whom?
With Marvin? Did you sleep with Marvin?
This rash questioning stepped over the boundary of divorce. Carl knew he shouldn't ask, but couldn't suppress the thorn in his heart.
We didn't go through with it.
Inez's words finally pulled out the thorn in his heart. He could finally take his son to clean up this dilapidated food truck with a relaxed body. But this massive amount of work was far from what a child could endure. Carl kept issuing orders. When Percy opened the cabinet, the stench of rotten fish rushed to his face. He instinctively threw the tray into the trash can, but attracted his father's scolding. He felt heartache for throwing away the iron tray that could still be used after washing, but ignored that Percy's patience had reached the limit.
Oh, I cleaned your whole stupid truck! Why are you so mean to me?
Watching the back of his son running away in anger, Carl suddenly woke up amidst the scraping sound of cleaning the iron tray. He only then realized that he had just become another boss, replacing communication with orders and hurting his closest person with harshness. Carl apologized with a gentle attitude, melting Percy's grievance. Subsequently, he took his son into the kitchenware store, explaining the magical use of every tool as if enumerating family valuables. Every sentence hid his 20 years of practice. What he passed on was not only the method of using tools, but also the awe of food. When Percy's eyes flashed with the light of worship, Carl seemed to see stars more precious than Michelin. However, the challenges of reality quickly broke the warmth. When they needed to move the heavy kitchenware onto the truck, Marvin's workers were leisurely playing cards and no one came forward to lend a hand. Carl had to borrow a jack and shoulder this weight alone. Just then, a familiar figure suddenly appeared. Looking carefully, it turned out to be his previous subordinate, Martin. Martin's addition gave the team its first employee, but the food truck, this behemoth, was far from what two people could cope with. Fortunately, Martin wittily communicated in Spanish and quickly persuaded that group of workers to come and help. It turned out those workers couldn't understand Carl's English. Martin's arrival was truly a godsend assist. Seasoning, marinating, roasting, cleaning the countertop, every neat and dashing movement fully showed his years of professional foundation. Doing the favorite work with the partner who understands each other best is really the top joy in life. They selected top quality ingredients, added exclusive seasoning configurations, and strove for perfection in every process. When a Cuban sandwich took rudimentary shape, it still needed to complete the final tempering on the iron plate to achieve the excellent texture of semi-melted cheese, soaked butter, and golden crispy skin. They were simply about to be blinded by the handsomeness of their own work. With this confidence, the food truck officially opened. Sure enough, this simple yet not simple street snack instantly conquered people's taste buds. The filling that was mouthfuls of meat made people shout in enjoyment. The fiery scene kept the two chefs so busy their feet didn't touch the ground. Unfortunately, starting a business for the first time, they had more than enough enthusiasm, but insufficient preparation, and actually forgot the most important link of collecting money. Just then, Percy accidentally burnt a piece.
Whoa, that's burnt.
So? They're not paying for it?
Percy, who didn't see any money, mistakenly thought today was just a free distribution. But these naive words touched Carl's bottom line. Free does not mean standards can be lowered, just as a craftsman's dignity cannot be discounted. The first thing he wanted to correct was not Percy's technique, but his attitude towards food.
I get to touch people's lives with what I do. And it keeps me going, and I love it. And I think if you give it a shot, you might love it too.
Yes, chef.
Now, should we have served that sandwich?
No, chef.
At this moment, Percy finally understood that what this food truck carried was not only the livelihood of supporting the family, but also Dad's professional belief that could not be tarnished. Busy daytime passed, the three people reviewed today's business together and planned the itinerary for the next step. A few days later, they drove the newly decorated food truck towards their home located in Los Angeles, continuing their food journey of selling all the way. Percy wasn't idle in the food truck either. His fingers flew across his phone as tweets spread across the internet like scattered seeds. When their food truck drove onto the beach, Marvin raised a loudspeaker to shout enthusiastically. The marketing combination of this startup team coordinated seamlessly, working along both online and offline lines. The Cuban-style advertising painting on the car body complemented the ace-level products, instantly making the food truck an internet-famous check-in spot. As the moments of sharing increased, business was booming beyond expectations. Just when they were incredibly busy, a city management officer pushed aside the crowded crowd and walked in. It turned out that setting up stalls was strictly prohibited here. This immediately drew boos of disappointment from the crowd. Suddenly, the city management officer recognized Carl.
Aren't you the lava cake guy?
The officer's words immediately aroused Carl's uneasiness. The officer enthusiastically pulled him to take one photo after another. Carl in front of the lens was completely relieved, smiling exceptionally brightly. It turned out that those accidents that once made him ashamed were perhaps just interesting stories in the eyes of others. With this relief, Carl also laughed constantly in the subsequent journey. The grievances he had accumulated for many days finally vanished into thin air. When they arrived in New Orleans, Carl specially took his son to taste beignets. They watched the chef throw the dough into the oil pan, listening to the wonderful sound of sizzling during frying. When the dough was golden and expanded, it was fished up, then quickly coated with thick icing sugar. This sweetness carrying childhood memories was the warm taste he wanted to leave for his son. This time, he didn't run straight to the vegetable market, but specially arranged this food trip for his son. His world was no longer just the kitchen. He began to learn to leave space for the people he loved. When they returned to the food truck, the scene before them surprised them. Before opening, customers had already queued up in a long line.
And how'd you get that crowd? You got a huge crowd outside?
I didn't get the crowd. I just came back from shopping. There was this long line. I thought it was a mistake.
I tweeted it.
It turned out that Percy, the little marketing manager, had been exerting force silently. This journey across the United States became the most vivid food class between father and son. Every time they arrived at a new place, Carl would look for local specialty food and then integrate the inspiration into the menu. When the summer vacation stepped into its end, the food truck also returned to Los Angeles. Percy was about to return to his mother's side. At parting, he hugged his dad tightly, unwilling to let go for a long time. After sending away his son, Carl returned to his bachelor apartment alone, an unprecedented loss surging in his heart. He turned on his phone, watching every video recorded by his son. Those shaking images were filled with the child's purest love. He really couldn't bear the longing, and then summoned the courage to call Inez, proposing to let his son come to the food truck to help on weekends and holidays. Unexpectedly, his proposal received Inez's full support. From then on, the figures of a family of 3 often appeared on the food truck. Their cooperation became more tacit, and long-lost warmth flowed in the air. That was an emotional bond rewoven by trust, understanding, and support. Just when business was incredibly booming, Ramsey, who hadn't been seen for a long time, was sandwiched in the team, humbly requesting to meet with Carl. Seeing this old enemy, Carl immediately erected thorns all over his body. But this time, Ramsey was not here to quarrel with Carl. After he tasted the food from the food truck, he had been completely conquered by Carl's talent. He brought an incredibly tempting investment invitation.
For a whole lot of money, and I've just put in a bid in a place on Rose. It's zoned, it's permitted. You could build it out however you like, and you can cook whatever you like.
6 months later, a new restaurant on Rose Avenue lit up the night. This was the masterpiece of Carl and Ramsey. This time, he is not an employee, but the owner. What floated out of the kitchen was no longer autocratic orders and humble compromises, but the freedom of creation and the laughter of family. It is the story of a once down-and-out chef who finally reclaimed his full dignity and passion. This is a story of the game between ideals and reality. That head chef who once could only cook according to the menu in the back kitchen, and the countless of us repeating our daily routines in our respective posts, are actually not that different. We are awakened by alarm clocks every day, merging into the bustling crowd, using hard sweat to build other people's dreams. Occasionally in the dead of night, we remember the appearance we vowed to live as when we were young. But in the day after day rushing, we gradually forgot the yearning in our hearts. It wasn't until we saw Carl driving that old food truck, passing through streets and alleys, rediscovering the light in his eyes amidst the fireworks of the human world, that we remembered that in everyone's heart, there is such a food truck hidden, carrying unfinished dreams and unspoken desires. Not everyone can change the world, so why not leave a quiet corner for what you truly love in the current life? A song played on the weekend, or a table of home-cooked food carefully prepared for a lover. Just like Carl finally understood, the steering wheel of life must ultimately be held in one's own hands, and the flavor of life must ultimately be blended by oneself. And that food truck belonging to us can start at any time, as long as you still remember why you set off in the first place.